Every human being carries a quiet wish to be noticed, to matter, to be acknowledged. The desire to be seen is not superficial, it is fundamentally human. Chapter 1. The human need to be seen. The biological origin of recognition. Long before modern society existed, recognition was not a desire, it was a necessity. Human beings evolved in small groups where belonging ensured survival. To be acknowledged by the tribe signaled safety, acceptance, and shared identity. To be ignored or cast out meant vulnerability. This ancient wiring still lives within us, shaping our emotions and influencing our choices, even in a world where physical survival no longer depends on social approval. The need to be seen is not a weakness. It is a deep biological impulse formed over thousands of years. In those early communities, recognition served a clear purpose. It reinforced cooperation. It encouraged contribution. It helped individuals understand their role within the group. Today, those survival mechanisms remain active, but they operate in a dramatically different context. We no longer live in small villages. We live in vast, interconnected societies where visibility has been magnified to unprecedented levels. Instead of seeking recognition from a handful of people, we now face the possibility of being observed by hundreds or thousands. The instinct did not change, but the environment around it did. This shift creates a psychological conflict. Our minds are still programmed to interpret social cues as indicators of acceptance or rejection. A compliment feels like inclusion. A lack of acknowledgement can feel like exclusion. Even digital interaction, something our ancestors could never have imagined, triggers the same ancient emotional responses. A reaction on social media may seem trivial, yet the mind perceives it as a signal of belonging. Conversely, being ignored can evoke the same discomfort that isolation once created in early human groups. Understanding this biological foundation helps explain why recognition has such a powerful influence on financial behavior. People often equate visibility with acceptance, and acceptance with safety. This belief encourages them to display signs of success in order to secure their place within modern social groups. The impulse is not driven by logic, but by an emotional system designed for a world that no longer exists. When someone purchases something to appear successful, they are not chasing the object itself. They are seeking the feeling of being valued. However, relying on outward displays to satisfy this biological need creates a fragile foundation. Recognition gained from appearance is temporary and often conditional. It lasts only as long as the performance continues. Yet the emotional system that seeks validation remains active, continually asking for new signals of acceptance. This is how individuals become trapped in cycles of spending and comparison. The instinct is ancient, but the responses are modern and often costly. Realizing that this impulse is biological, not personal, brings clarity and compassion. It allows you to understand your own behavior with greater patience. You are not reacting out of vanity. You are reacting out of human instinct. But instinct alone does not need to dictate your financial choices. Once you recognize the origin of the need to be seen, you can learn to meet that need in healthier, more sustainable ways. Throughout this chapter and the rest of this book, you will learn how to redirect this fundamental desire toward experiences that strengthen your identity rather than deplete your resources. You will learn to distinguish genuine connection from performance-based approval, and to develop a sense of worth that does not depend on external symbols. By understanding where the need for recognition comes from, you take the first step toward freeing yourself from its financial consequences. building a life where you are seen not through what you display, but through who you truly are. Why we seek validation even when we deny it. Most people like to believe they are independent thinkers, driven by their own values and immune to outside judgment. Yet beneath the surface, almost everyone seeks some form of validation. This desire is not a sign of weakness or insecurity. It is a natural extension of our biology. Validation reassures us that we belong, that we matter, and that our efforts are recognized. Even when we claim not to care about others' opinions, our actions often reveal a different truth. The human heart remains sensitive to acknowledgement even when the mind tries to rise above it. One of the reasons validation is so powerful is that it connects directly to our sense of identity. When someone acknowledges us, whether through words, gestures, or attention, we feel seen, we feel affirmed. This emotional response is immediate and deeply rewarding. On the other hand, being ignored or dismissed triggers discomfort, even if we do not express it openly. People often deny that they care about validation because they want to be perceived as strong, self-sufficient, or unaffected by the opinions of others. Yet the quiet longing to be recognized persists, shaping behavior in subtle but significant ways. This internal conflict becomes especially visible in financial decisions. Many individuals make choices that are influenced not only by what they want, but by what they believe others will admire. They accept opportunities they do not truly desire, pursue lifestyles that stretch their budgets, or purchase items that serve no personal purpose beyond signaling a certain image. They may insist that these choices reflect their independence, but the underlying motivation often comes from the desire to feel valued through external approval. Even those who appear indifferent to others' opinions are influenced by this instinct. Sometimes the denial itself becomes a form of protection, a way to avoid acknowledging the vulnerability that comes with wanting to be accepted. But ignoring the need for validation does not make it disappear. It simply makes it harder to understand and manage. When the need is unacknowledged, it can influence decisions unconsciously, creating patterns of behavior that feel confusing or inconsistent. Understanding why we seek validation helps us see these patterns more clearly. We seek validation because it reassures us that we are aligned with our group. We seek it because it provides emotional comfort. We seek it because being witnessed, truly witnessed, touches something essential within us. This longing becomes unhealthy only when it begins to control our choices, or when it leads us to prioritize image over well-being. The status trap thrives on this unspoken need. It offers quick, visible substitutes for genuine validation: admiration through appearance, approval through display, and recognition through performance. These substitutes, however, are temporary. They provide brief emotional satisfaction, but leave behind a lingering emptiness that encourages people to seek more. The cycle continues until financial stress, emotional fatigue, or identity confusion forces them to confront the truth they have been avoiding. Breaking free from this cycle does not require abandoning the desire for validation. It requires choosing healthier sources of it. Real validation comes from relationships built on authenticity, from personal achievements that reflect genuine effort, and from inner growth that does not depend on an audience. When validation is grounded in these deeper experiences, it becomes stable rather than fleeting. This book will help you recognize where your desire for validation is guiding you, and how to redirect it toward choices that strengthen rather than weaken your life. By understanding why we seek validation, even when we deny it, you gain the clarity to build a financial and emotional foundation rooted in self-respect, not performance. social media as an amplifier of the desire to be noticed. Social media has reshaped human behavior in ways few could have anticipated. At its core, it is a platform for connection, but in practice, it has become a stage, one where visibility is constant and comparison is immediate. What once required effort, intention, and real interaction is now available with a single post. The desire to be noticed, which has always existed within human nature, now has an endless arena in which to express itself. Social media does not create this desire. It magnifies it, accelerates it, and embeds it into daily life. Unlike earlier forms of communication, social media offers instant feedback. A photo, a comment, or a short video can generate approval within seconds. This rapid response taps directly into the emotional system that craves recognition. Each notification provides a small surge of validation, a momentary reassurance that someone is paying attention. These signals are brief, but they are powerful enough to shape behavior. People begin to share not only what is meaningful, but what they believe will be well received. The line between expression and performance becomes increasingly blurred. The structure of social media heightens this effect. Platforms reward content that attracts attention, not content that reflects authenticity. Visibility becomes a form of currency. The more reactions something receives, the more valuable it appears. This creates a quiet pressure to present a polished version of life, a version filtered, edited, and curated to signal success. Over time, individuals may begin to measure their worth through these metrics, even if they consciously reject the idea. Financial choices are not immune to this influence. When people witness others displaying moments of luxury, achievement, or excitement, they feel pulled to participate in that narrative. They may purchase items or experiences not because they desire them, but because they want to join the digital conversation. A trip becomes more than a vacation. It becomes a chance to appear adventurous. A purchase becomes more than a reward. It becomes a symbol to showcase. The emotional cost of wanting to keep up with this constant flow of visibility can be overwhelming. Social media also distorts perception through selective exposure. People rarely share the full truth of their lives. They present fragments, often the most positive or impressive ones. The mind, however, interprets these fragments as a complete picture. This creates the illusion that everyone else is progressing faster, living better, or achieving more. The feeling of falling behind intensifies, and with it, the desire to close the perceived gap through outward displays. The platform becomes both a mirror and a magnifying glass, reflecting insecurities and amplifying them. This intensified desire to be noticed can lead to exhaustion. Constantly maintaining a digital image requires emotional energy, and the pressure to sustain visibility can overshadow real-life priorities. People may find themselves living for the next post rather than for their own well-being. They may celebrate moments not because they feel joy, but because they want them to appear joyful. Over time, the performance becomes a habit, and the habit becomes an identity. Escaping this pattern does not require abandoning social media entirely. It requires redefining its purpose. When individuals use these platforms intentionally, sharing from a place of authenticity rather than expectation, they reclaim control over their emotional landscape. They can appreciate connection without depending on validation. They can recognize the curated nature of the content they consume and understand that visibility is not the same as success. This book will continue guiding you toward that clarity. Social media is powerful, but your relationship with it can be healthy and grounded. By understanding how it amplifies the desire to be noticed, you can begin to separate your identity from your digital image and your financial decisions from the pressure to perform. The fear of financial invisibility. One of the most overlooked emotional pressures of modern life is the fear of financial invisibility. The fear that, unless others can see signs of progress, our efforts, struggles, and ambitions will go unnoticed. This fear is not rooted in greed or pride. It is rooted in the human desire to have our journey validated. We want our hard work to mean something. We want our progress to be acknowledged. And in a world where visibility often stands in for value, being financially invisible can feel like not being seen at all. Financial invisibility creates a unique form of anxiety. It is the worry that others may assume we are not achieving enough, not moving forward fast enough, or not living up to expectations. Even when we are building real success, quietly, steadily, and responsibly, it may not look impressive from the outside. Savings accounts do not sparkle. Debt reduction does not create applause. Investing with discipline creates no dramatic moment to display. The actions that lead to long-term stability are often the least visible, while the actions that create immediate admiration are often financially costly. This disconnect can lead people to feel pressured into displaying symbols of progress, even when those symbols do not reflect their true situation. A person may buy something to appear on the right track, fearing that without visible markers they will be misunderstood or underestimated. This fear is deeply emotional. It is the fear of being overlooked in a society that celebrates appearances. It is the fear of falling behind in a race that, in truth, no one is winning as quickly as they appear to be. Financial invisibility becomes even more painful when surrounded by environments that highlight visible success. When friends, coworkers, or acquaintances openly display their achievements, it silently reinforces the belief that progress must be shown to be real. People then worry not only about their financial path, but about how their path is perceived. This emotional tension creates an internal conflict between the desire to be responsible and the desire to feel included. The fear of invisibility often leads to choices that prioritize visibility over stability. A person may delay responsible decisions because they do not look successful enough. They may take on unnecessary costs to project confidence, or they may hide their financial goals out of embarrassment. This fear erodes clarity. It pushes people toward financial behaviors that soothe the need for recognition, but undermine long-term well-being. Yet financial invisibility is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of maturity. Some of the most powerful financial decisions are the ones no one ever sees. Choosing not to overspend, choosing to save instead of display, choosing to quietly eliminate debt, choosing to build a foundation instead of a facade. These choices do not attract attention, but they create a life of strength that no public image can imitate. To escape the emotional pressure of financial invisibility, we must redefine what it means to be seen. True recognition does not come from displaying wealth. It comes from becoming the kind of person whose stability, confidence, and peace speak louder than any symbol. When your success is real, built on discipline and purpose rather than performance, you no longer need to prove anything. This book will help guide you toward that shift. By understanding the fear of financial invisibility, you can begin to replace it with a deeper sense of self-worth, one that is grounded in who you are becoming, not in what you can show. You will learn to value progress that is quiet, meaningful, and sustainable, and to let go of the belief that success must be visible to be real. How constant comparison weakens us. Comparison has become such a normal part of modern life that many people do not realize how deeply it affects their decisions, emotions, and sense of identity. What begins as a simple observation, how someone else lives, earns, or achieves, quietly turns into a standard against which we measure our own progress. This constant comparison does not strengthen us. It weakens us. It shifts our focus from who we are becoming to who we think we should imitate. And in that shift, we lose clarity, confidence, and peace. Human beings are naturally inclined to compare. In our earliest communities, comparison served a practical purpose. It helped individuals learn, adapt, and survive. But the world has changed. The number of people we can observe has multiplied beyond anything our minds were built to process. Instead of comparing ourselves to a small group, we now compare ourselves to thousands, often without context, accuracy, or understanding of their real circumstances. The result is a distorted perception of where we stand, which creates unnecessary pressure and emotional strain. Constant comparison weakens us because it turns life into an unwinnable race. No matter how much progress we make, there will always be someone who appears to be further ahead. Someone with a larger home, someone with a more impressive career, someone who seems happier, wealthier, or more fulfilled. But these comparisons are built on incomplete information. We see the highlights but not the challenges. We see the achievements but not the sacrifices. We see the results but not the struggles that shaped them. Measuring ourselves against illusions leads to feelings of inadequacy, even when we are doing well. This emotional vulnerability affects financial behavior in profound ways. Comparison creates a sense of urgency, an internal pressure to catch up to the lifestyle we believe others have. Instead of making decisions based on our values and goals, we begin making them based on fear of falling behind. We spend money to match appearances rather than to build stability. We prioritize visible signs of success over meaningful progress. In trying to keep pace with others, we abandon the path that would actually strengthen our future. Comparison also weakens our ability to appreciate our own journey. When attention is fixed on what others have, it becomes difficult to recognize the progress we are making. We overlook the small victories, the disciplined choices, and the quiet improvements that shape a solid financial foundation. The more we compare, the less gratitude we feel, and without gratitude, even genuine success can feel empty. This emotional erosion can lead to dissatisfaction, impulsive decisions, and a sense of never being enough. The true danger of comparison is that it shifts our identity outward. Instead of asking, "What do I want?" or "What is right for my life?" we begin asking, "How do I measure up?" Decisions lose authenticity. Confidence becomes dependent on external benchmarks, and the desire to be seen as successful overshadows the desire to be genuinely fulfilled. Comparison steals clarity. It clouds judgment. It weakens resilience by making us vulnerable to the expectations of others. Escaping this trap requires a deliberate shift in focus. Instead of comparing our lives to those around us, we must compare our present selves only to our past selves. Progress becomes personal rather than competitive. Financial decisions become intentional rather than reactive. And identity becomes anchored in who we truly are, not in what others project. This book will guide you through that transformation. By recognizing how constant comparison weakens us, you gain the strength to replace it with self-awareness, discipline, and clarity. You learn to measure success in ways that support your well-being, not in ways that imitate someone else's highlight reel. And you begin building a life that is deeply aligned with your values, strong, grounded, and free from the weight of comparison. The beginning of the status trap. The status trap does not begin with a purchase, a lifestyle decision, or a moment of comparison. It begins much earlier, in a quiet emotional place where the need to be seen meets the fear of being overlooked. It starts when recognition becomes something we attempt to earn rather than something we naturally receive. This shift, subtle, almost invisible, is what opens the door to the trap. It sets the stage for choices that prioritize appearance over well-being and visibility over authenticity. The first step into the status trap usually happens without awareness. It begins with a small moment, noticing how others respond to what someone owns, how they dress, or what they share. It happens when a person realizes that attention flows more easily toward those who display signs of success. This recognition, even if unspoken, plants a seed. It suggests that social value is connected to what can be shown, not simply to who one is. Over time, this idea begins to shape behavior, slowly redefining what it means to feel worthy and visible. As this belief grows, people start paying more attention to how they appear rather than how they feel. Progress becomes something to demonstrate rather than experience privately. Financial decisions begin revolving around the question, "How will this look?" rather than, "Is this good for me?" This gradual shift is the true beginning of the status trap. It is not driven by materialism. It is driven by the human desire for affirmation in a world where affirmation is increasingly tied to presentation. Once visibility becomes a measure of identity, a person can feel pressured to maintain it. Even minor choices begin to carry emotional weight. Declining an invitation may feel like falling behind. Choosing something practical instead of something impressive may feel like a missed opportunity to be acknowledged. These small pressures accumulate, slowly reshaping priorities. The trap deepens when people begin to believe that the only way to be valued is through the symbols they present to others. The status trap strengthens because modern society rewards performance. It praises what can be seen. Financial responsibility, saving, planning, and living within one's means happens quietly. It earns no applause. But visible spending, even when unwise, attracts attention and admiration. The emotional system interprets this attention as belonging, and belonging feels essential. This creates a conflict between what builds long-term stability and what generates short-term validation. Many individuals choose the latter, not because they lack discipline, but because they are responding to deeply rooted human instincts. The moment someone begins making decisions to preserve an image rather than to strengthen their life, the trap becomes active. It influences priorities in subtle ways. A person may convince themselves that they are simply motivated or aspiring, when in reality they are trying to avoid the discomfort of appearing ordinary. They may feel compelled to adopt a lifestyle that stretches beyond their means, not because they want it, but because they fear the emotional consequences of being invisible. The trap works quietly. Its power lies in how natural it feels. Recognizing the beginning of the status trap is essential because the earlier we see it, the easier it is to escape. When we understand that this trap is emotional, not financial, we begin to see our choices more clearly. We realize that the desire to be seen is human, but the need to prove ourselves is learned. We discover that true worth does not require performance, and real success does not need an audience. This book will help you identify the places where the trap took hold in your own life. With awareness, you can step back from the pressure to impress and begin choosing a path that aligns with your values rather than with expectations. The status trap loses its strength the moment you recognize its origins and reclaim the power to define your worth from within rather than from the world around you. If you believe this chapter could help someone, feel free to share it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And if you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe. Your support truly helps us keep creating more content like this.